Welcome. We will try to keep this to an hour, and in normal Evergy fashion, this may be new to some of you, not sure, but we are going to start with a safety and or a DE&I moment, diversity, equity, and inclusion, and Chris Dodds is going to lead us in that. So Chris, I'll hand it over to you if you're ready.
I'm ready.
All yours.
Going to do things a little differently, just to show how easy it is to get, at least in my opinion, a great or an interesting diversity topic, especially for those internal. So we have diversity, equity, inclusion site, and then very easy to go through, see some different things, some useful resources, and one of those things is an inclusion topic. So I'm kind of walking you through my mindset and what I did this time to come up with the topic. And as I looked at this first page, caught my attention for heritages celebrated at various times of the year. And then I noticed down here in April that we had March 13th to April 15th, National Deaf History Month. And kind of did one of those dog canted my head off to the side and said, that passed a couple days ago, but I don't remember anyone talking about National Deaf History Month at all over the last month. So then the next logical thing you do is if you're like me and you don't know anyone who has that disability or suffers with that officially, lots of husbands say they can't hear, but officially has that disability, kind of do a Google search. And for me, it was interesting across all kinds of different spectrums. Found this Marley Martin, who was in a movie, 1986, Children of a Lesser God, and she became the first person to win an Academy Award being deaf. And not only that, she won it when she was 20 years old, so she's still the youngest person ever to win the Academy Award for Best Actress. Took it over to sports and found Derek Coleman, who was a player in the NFL. Might seem a little, not the name some of you might remember, but he was the first offensive player to be, whatever this definition means, legally deaf, first offensive player in the NFL. And then another interesting one to me, and I found him he's from Kansas City, so kind of got my attention, but an American deaf artist who was one of I think there were 9 founders of this Davia art movement. And it was an art movement that focused around art through their disability. So art that focused on the deaf lifestyle. Interestingly, just from yesterday, April 20th, 2021, Oscar nominee Sound of Metal puts rare spotlight on deaf culture. And there's some interesting things in here just talking about, we've heard about racial and gender equity or lack of equity. In this case, 2.3% of the 100 highest grossing films of 19 had characters with disabilities. And it says that, and I did not fact check this stat, but that 26% of the population of the US adults have a disability. So way underserved. And then one final thing that I thought was interesting, went down farther down in our diversity inclusion topics. And if you're like me and you find the Mandalorian TV show, and this is hopefully the most poignant part of this diversity and equity inclusion topic, they have these characters that are Tusken Raiders, and they hired a deaf actor to play the Tusken Raider and help create the sign language. The $1 million part of this is that they did it because somebody who was hired to do it and had hearing suggested that they go with someone who didn't. So the point there is sometimes it's our responsibility to look around the room and make sure we know who's missing and who's not represented, and do our best to try to make sure that they are. So hopefully at least one person found that as interesting as I did, and I appreciate the opportunity to do the diversity topic. Back to you, Kelly.
Thank you, Chris. And understanding we have a very a wide-reaching group on the phone. We have obviously many of our contractors and representatives from that group. We have members from our supply chain team. We have members from our safety team, and we also have representatives from Generation on the line. For those of you that aren't in regular Evergy meetings, we have made a very concentrated effort over the last 6 months that, in addition to an opportunity to present a safety topic at the beginning of each meeting that has 3 or more people in it, we've also really focused on these DE&I topics, and not sure what folks are doing within their company, but maybe there's something from that. If you take nothing else from the meeting, maybe you take back that there's an opportunity for us to talk about DE&I from a lot of different perspectives, and Chris had a good one today, so thank you for that, Chris. Okay, so we'll get started. This will probably not be our last conversation about this. Let's just start there. This is another change for Evergy, recognizing that we are a large footprint within the Midwest, and we have many touches within our community in different ways. But we also have a responsibility to be consistent in how we do things as a merged company with a large name, a lot of risk, a lot of administrative and logistics in our business. We've come to a place, not quickly, but over time, recognizing that we need to have a consistent process on how we onboard our contractors working in our generation facilities. So as you all know, we moved to, recognizing our Evergy rules back at the beginning of the year. And so we're following those, and now we're moving to a place where our onboarding will be a consistent process. So there'll probably be lots of questions from here. So let's just recognize that. But this doesn't have to be the last conversation about it. Obviously, your Evergy rep, our safety team, our supply chain team, we'll all be resources as we work through this together. But hopefully you'll recognize that there's some efficiencies and a lot of consistency in the way that we're going to do things going forward. So with that, I would like to turn it over to Chase Smith and Bo Freese to talk about kind of where we've been and the changes we're going to talk about. So Chase and Bo, I'll hand it over to you.
Well, thanks, Kelly. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Bo. I think everybody pretty much knows how, as far as old versus new goes, kind of what the old process was. We were doing those site orientations at a site level on site at the facility, and then also through PowerSafe as well. So starting May 1st, our generation contractors will now have the capability to complete that portion of the required annual orientation online through the ISM platform. So basically how that works, without going into as much depth, because obviously that's what this call is about today, but contractor companies are given the access to the Evergy's ISN online orientation platform, and then the contractor company then assigns training to those employees within your company. So those employees then complete the training, and then that's where it's reported, is within the ISM platform. So for those contractors that aren't required to subscribe to ISN, we also have the YouTube link, which Carla's going to go in great detail on that a little bit later. And then with the completion form to also complete that process. So there's a few things that why we believe this process will help and enhance our orientation process is one, it's going to standardize our processes across the company. Two, it'll reduce the time allocated by our Evergy appointed representatives to conduct on-site orientations. And then it'll also enhance the capability for orientation tracking and record keeping. So that's kind of the goal, to move through this online process and to kind of streamline the process as far as orientation goes for generation contractors. Chase, did you want to add anything to that?
I think you pretty much covered most everything I would have. Consistent message. For those of you that have done PowerSafe in the past, this is way more efficient than PowerSafe, 4-hour sessions. And I think you'd be very happy with that, but I don't have anything else extra.
Very good. Thank you both for that short history lesson. So you can see just in those comments from Bo and Chase where the efficiencies will be, but what I do want to make clear is there'll be some options, but for For anyone who is required to subscribe an ISN, and that's based on the work that you're doing at our facilities, the orientation should take place in ISN. For subcontractors, or if we have emergencies, we have an option to use a YouTube link, and we'll talk through all of that today. But the majority of folks should roll through that in ISN. It's about a 24-minute video, which is in line with maybe that folks that have worked in our East plants recall. But the difference is, one of the biggest differences is that it's done ahead of stepping into an on-site facility. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But next, we'll have Carla Kemp jump on and talk about, we sent a job aid out with the meeting invite. So Carla, I'm not sure if you're going to pull that up or reference it, but I will hand it over to you when you're ready.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. Actually, I don't think I sent. Hi.
Carla, we lost you there.
Hi. I was muted. Can you hear me now?
Now we can, yep.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Actually, I don't think I sent the current job aid out. We have one for internal Kansas City Power and Light folks because it includes our in-depth job aids on how to go through the process and run reports, but I will send that out after today's call, and I will also send out information to our contractors that are invited to the call. We've got a job aid for them as well, but we also have ISN on the call today that's going to walk them through kind of what the process looks like. But I failed to mention at the beginning of the meeting, and I need to do this according to our privacy policy, that we are recording this meeting, so I needed to make sure I let everybody know. So if anybody didn't attend today, or we'll have this link to this meeting after today's call. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Can you guys see this ISN orientation blank screen?
Not yet.
I got it, Carla, with the blank screen.
Okay.
I see it now, Carla.
It's coming through over here, Carla. I think it's just taking a little
Okay.
time.
All right, thank you, folks. Okay, so just to recap the process, it's fairly simple. ISN, Evergy is going to assign contractor companies the Evergy Orientation / training without an ISN. And currently we have generation training, which we're talking about today, or generation orientation. And we also do the same thing on the field side. So we essentially have two platforms. ISN is then going to send the contractor company a notification through the system, which I believe goes to their company ISN program administrator. The contractor company then goes into their system and assigns the training to their individual employees. And this training can be done individually, and the employees receive credit, or there's also an option where the companies can actually do this in a group setting, and their company's ISN program administrator can actually go in and give the employees credit. And then when this entire process is completed, we will then have a reporting feature within ISN to track the online training through a report. I'm going to bring up a job aid. This is actually Evergy internal job aid because it has more information, but the contractors look very similar. This information is also going to be on our Evergy internal contractor safety program website, as well as me sending this link out to you today. The contractor job aid, as I said, that looks very similar, is going to be sent out via an email after today, but it's also going to be housed on our contractor page on evergy.com. And once that page is up and running, which should be any day now, I'll send information related to that link. So essentially, any internal person that is trying to navigate a contractor through this process can send that evergy.com link, and it's going to explain the whole process with all the resources. So this, I'm sorry, does somebody have a comment? Okay. So basically step one, our Evergy reps are going to ensure that the contractor company that they're working with has been assigned the online training project through ISN. And attached to this document, there's a job aid number for running an online training report to identify the companies that have been assigned the training. So over the last 4 or 6 weeks or so, I'm getting some feedback. Is anybody else getting that?
Yeah, just a little bit. If we could just make sure we're muted if you're not speaking. Thank you.
We gathered a pretty large list of company names from our internal folks who felt these were our residential contractors, but of course this list is going to get larger every day. As you're working with a new contractor, you'll just contact me. We'll get the company assigned the training, and it'll move through the slow process. And then second, has the contractor employee completed the training? Here's a job aid number 5 attached to identify. There's a report on ISN that is actually a live report updated instantaneously to determine if you need to check and see if your actual contractor employee has went through the training. If no, the contractor employee must contact their company's ISN program administrator and ask them to get assigned the training, because that's the job of the contractor company. And then here, I mentioned this a minute ago, contractor companies do have the option to view the orientation in a group setting and provide individual credit to their employees within the system. So once ISN notifies all the contractors that have been assigned this training, which should be done before May 1st, they'll also get some instruction and job aid on how to go through this process on their side of the business. Once the contractor companies have been assigned the training, the employees have taken their training, our Evergy representatives know how to identify if that contractor employees are taking the training. The appointed Evergy rep would then conduct part 2 of the orientation on site. So they're ready to go. They can now come on site. They've taken this 25-minute online orientation piece. They show up on site. Our Evergy reps are going to verify the information, and that's when they're going to complete part 2 of the orientation to talk about site-specific talking points, emergency evacuation procedures, and receive their job briefing. And at that time, they're going to receive their hard hat sticker. Jake is going to go through this process for us here in a minute, but the second part is our second option. So I know we had a meeting, internal meeting with our folks on March 5th talking about the ISN orientation process, but at that time we didn't have the secondary option for our subcontractor pool who may not be subscribed to ISN, and how do they get through the orientation process. So this is what's new for you folks that have been on the call on March the 5th. We've now added our generation orientation piece to YouTube. It's the video is on YouTube, and there's also an option to go on there. Once they click on the video, down in the disclaimer here, they click on a link and they complete an online form and hit submit, and it basically gives them credit. And then our internal folks will also ensure that they review that platform as well, or that reporting, to see if they did their orientation through that platform, and then they can come on site and get their hard hat sticker. Again, as Kelly reiterated earlier, if the contractor company is an ISN, they should be taking this first orientation piece through ISN. But if they're not, we have the secondary option through YouTube. And after I turn it over to Jake, after Jake walks through the system, I'll show you guys the YouTube orientation piece. But again, just going through this real quick, scrolling down through this document here I'm looking at. here is all of the instructions on how to run our contractors through the program with job aids, including at the end some orientation Q&As, and based off today's discussions, we might be updating these Q&As for you folks. So that's all I have at the moment. I think it's we're now turning it over to Jake. Is that correct, Kelly?
Actually, before we do, appreciate that, Carla. So obviously a lot of information. If you've ever worked with Carla, you know that you will have tools behind the scenes to support the conversation. And that was just a quick glimpse of that. But just to reiterate that this onboarding does not take place of what happens on site. It's important for us, for people to have a set of information before they walk in our doors. And once they do, there's some really important stuff they need to know on site, right? So we don't want to place that. So I'd like for Bo and Chase to talk quickly about the on-site piece, if you would. Bo or Chase, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Kelly. And like Kelly said, the video does not supersede the site specific, as far as, you know, you're still required to do that when you show up at a site, and the site specific is required at each site as well. So I just want to make sure that when you get orientated, say at Jeffries, and you show up at Hawthorne, you would still be required to do an additional site specific for each plant. So just a few highlights that would be at a site-specific orientation, not limited to, but, you know, emergency contact numbers should be given out. Plant contact itself and safety department should get your severe weather shelter locations, emergency vac locations, and specific procedures around those items. Hazardous chemicals should be discussed. An example of that would be an anhydrous ammonia, to include storage, muster points, wind direction flags. And another thing we've used is a one-pager map to show those areas is very useful. Most plants have parking requirements. Some of them have railroad encroachment, depending on the railroad track setup. Paging systems are different at all plants. Those items should be talked about. And smoking requirements. Everybody has a little bit different setup for smoking, so that's, you know, another item of discussion. And then, even though you've watched the video through ISN, it covers a lot of the umbrella rules for the whole generating fleet. Some of the items can be revisited, like lotto, hot work, confined space, and the PPE requirements like FR and safety toe boots. So most often during site orientation, we will go ahead and revisit those important safety rules. Site-specific should be an interactive session. If you have questions during the site-specific, please bring it up. It's good to have those questions and get all those concerns out in the open. This is an opportunity to get to know each other and build positive working relationships. So that's once all that's been done, like Carla said earlier, you'll receive your hard hat sticker and be ready to go to work. Bo, do you have anything to add?
No, I don't, Chase. That's pretty thorough.
Very good, Chase. Bo, thank you for that. And again, just to say it again, maybe I haven't said it yet, but the onboarding video will be annual. It's one time a year. That'll be done ahead of coming onto property, and then the site specific will take place on property, and that's where folks will receive their sticker. So you watch the video once in a year, which covers you to work in any generating facility, but you will need a site specific orientation if you have workers that, you know, traverse between Hawthorne and Iatan or places like that, for the obvious reasons that Chase listed.
Kelly, I might just remind everybody too, the video needs to be watched before we do site specific, and that will just help with consistency and across the fleet.
Yep. Very good, Chase. I would also add, because I'm sure some of you are thinking, okay, well, it's April 21st. I've had, 50 people go through PowerSafe already. Are we starting over with them? That's not the case. If your employees have already gone through the video orientation in the East or PowerSafe on the West, they don't have to do it again for this year. Anybody new coming on May 1st, they'll be directed through this ISN process with an option for the YouTube for subcontractors or emergency type of situation. So maybe that clarifies a little bit there. Okay, so next up we have Jake. Probably many of you know Jake from ISN. Jake, are you ready to give us the ISN demo?
Absolutely, Kelly. We're ready to go. I went ahead and just shared my screen with everybody. Can you confirm you can see that all right?
We can.
Excellent, excellent. So guys, what I'm going to be walking through today within our demonstration contractor account Knox Construction is simply just the steps on the contractor side to go about assigning the generation course to your applicable employees come May 1st once it goes live. Just one thing to note, Kelly did want to ask, I noticed May 1st is a Saturday. Are we actually going to be publishing this and sending the message out that Monday, May 3rd?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
That'll work.
Okay, so May 3rd, guys, you can expect a message and a new training requirement to appear in your account for the Generation Online training. Like any outstanding requirement or employee level training, you're going to have a to-do list trigger, bringing your attention to that area of the account where you need to, go about assigning those applicable employees. So for the contractor audience on the phone, I know many of you are probably familiar with this process, whether it be from a previous Evergy online training that they had, or even online training requirements for other clients outside of Evergy. But essentially, the flow of what I'm about to walk through is the same from client to client who is using the online training tool. So come May 3rd, you'll have a message just with brief instructions, as well as that contractor job aid that includes the step-by-step instructions to complete this course in the system. And what you'll start by doing is from the homepage here, going into the employee information and training section, followed by project training and assignments. You're really just following, again, the orange to-do list triggers click by click till you can get to that area of the account where you can complete that requirement. So on the very next page, the training assignment page, you can simply just filter to Evergy. Again, since it's a brand new course and you haven't assigned any new employees to it, you'll actually see that same orange exclamation point next to their name. You're not seeing it here since we actually use Knox Construction to test these trainings before we publish them to contractors, but essentially this is the exact same view you're going to have on your side. So you'll see Evergy companies, you'll see the Evergy Generation Orientation Project, and you'll have the link to go about viewing and assigning your employees. Again, no need to really jot down notes here. I'm just simply walking through the steps that are going to be provided to you when this training comes live. And I know Carla mentioned it's going to be available in several different locations, even outside of the message center and the bulletin board here. So within the project training assignments page, this is where you're going to have the option to select your applicable employees that need to complete this course for Evergy. So you'll simply just select as many as needed and move them over. And when you click save, these individuals are automatically going to receive a notification and potentially an email if they have their email settings configured that way to log into their ISNet World account and complete the newly assigned generation training for Evergy. Now, like Carla and the group has mentioned, we're actually going to be publishing the course so that you guys can complete it not only in an individual setting, but also in a group setting if need be, with that apply credit option enabled. So I'll actually just spend a quick second talking about the apply credit process before I jump into what the training would look like for the end user after this assignment piece is completed. Any administrative user on the contractor side, which I know it's probably many of you on the call today, will have the ability to come in and apply credit to your employees that have completed this course in a group setting. So simply from the training assignment page, we'd be clicking that tab and just following the 3 easy steps here. We'll select the Evergy course. Should actually pre-populate for you in this case. The date, you'll select the date that individual or group of individuals completed the training. And then you'll filter to the number of employees, or filter to the employees that completed it and select them just like you did on the previous page from when they were assigned in order to get this apply credit record tied to their profile. And after you click save, those changes would then take effect, and those employees would show compliant just like any other employee who satisfied the training individually. One thing to note is that more often than not, because Evergy is giving you all the option to apply the credit on your end, that's more than likely going to be their expectation for you all to complete anytime you do have a group setting that you're administering it in. Although Evergy does still have the full rights, it is their course to apply credits to employees on their side as well, in case there's any unique circumstances. Any questions so far before I jump into the online training section, just to show you what the page looks like?
Hey, Jake, this is Christy from Day and Zimmerman. I have a question. You were talking about showing compliant, non-compliant. Is this going to affect the grade, even though we may not have a group being hired in this week, so to speak? But is that going to affect our grade overall?
It will not. So these are employee level training requirements. And the company scorecard, that the grade that you're familiar with today, that's entirely company level information.
And I know y'all can set it up clients can set it up different ways. So I just wanted to verify. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. That's right. But the expectation is that, once this does go live on the 3rd, you have the course completed and satisfied and are able to show proof of that,
Yes.
before arriving on site.
Yes. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. So after the assignment process is completed, these individuals will be notified to come in and complete their online training requirement for Evergy. And where they're doing that is simply just within the online training, complete online training section. From here, they can see a full list of all of the client trainings that they're assigned to. Again, specific to Evergy, the two that we have here are the generation and field orientation. But instead of a green check mark, they would see the exact same screen we're looking at here, except they'd have an orange button to begin training. And upon clicking that button, they'll just have a new pop-up window, and the training will begin. Once it's successfully completed, all you have to do is shut out of the browser of the training itself. This page will refresh, and you'll go from an orange to-do list trigger to a green check mark, and you'll see your status update as well. And from that moment in time, you can print certificates to show completion. You, the individual contractor employee, you can see compliance on the online training reports, both on the contractor side, and since the information is in real time, Evergy could run a report and see on their end that this individual with this company has satisfied the training. Any questions or comments or concerns so far from what you've seen over the assignment process or completion process for this course?
This is Ben Chavez with Protect. I am just curious, is Evergy, do you require your contractors to have a printed certificate when they arrive on site, or as Jacob had mentioned, are you guys going to look it up whether or not our employees have had training?
Yeah, I can take that, Jake. So at this point, we're not requiring a printed certificate as a wholesale policy because our Evergy team has the ability to pull live information from the system. If I was the person taking the training, I'd print the certificate and have it in my pocket when I walk through the door, just so there's no issues. So it's not a wholesale policy, but probably a good recommendation at this point. Good question.
Thank you.
Any other questions or concerns over the process from anybody on the line from the contractor side? Again, if anything comes up or you have any trouble, issues, or questions, after the go live date on May 3rd, know that you can always call or live chat our contractor support team 24 hours Monday through Friday. And they're more than happy to walk through the instructions with you, take a look at the job aid, or repeat the same process for any of your employees.
Jake, one thing I just want to draw attention to on the screen you're on right now. So there may be contractors on the line that have employees that both work in generation facilities and in the field. And we have representatives from our safety team on both sides of the business there. If you have employees that do that, they are separate trainings. We focus this one in generation. We have been doing field orientations for over a year very successfully. So it might feel a little bit painful on the front end, but I promise we'll get there because we've proved we can do it. But just to be clear, if you have folks that may work on different sides of the business, they may be required to go through both on an annual basis. Okay, so if there's nothing else for Jake at this point, don't go anywhere, Jake, because we'll have good time for Q&A at the end of this. But we will move to our next topic, which is going to come from Carla. Carla's going to run through the YouTube demo. And again, this is a kind of an emergency situation or where we have smaller contractors who are maybe not doing work that requires an ISN subscription. This is going to be an option in those scenarios. So Carla, I'll hand it back over to you for the YouTube demo.
Sure. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay. And one last note to Jake, or question. I know it was mentioned that the contractors, they have to take this annually. And there's an option in the system, correct me if I'm wrong, where the company ISN program administrator can go in there and put a reminder to themselves to schedule this, like on a yearly basis. That pulls a trigger. Is that correct, Jake? Okay, maybe I lost Jake.
I'm sorry, Carla, do you mind repeating?
I do believe, and I don't know if this is part of the job aid, you're going to send the contractors after a training, but don't they have an option, the contractor ISN program administrator, to go in there and put something in their to-do list so it triggers when a year comes up to go in there and reassign that training again to make it easier for them to administer?
Yeah, it's actually easier than that, Carla. There's no action required for notification renewals for any of the or for the generation course. Once the employee's assigned to the course, they're going to remain assigned. There's never a need to unassign them from that course. And once they complete it, they'll have it'll remain compliant up until the months to renewal. It looks like it's 12 months prior to the renewal date. So they'll be automatically notified at 12 months if they have the option to come in and retake it. So that process is actually automatic.
That's fantastic. Thank you, James. So can you guys see my blue screen here? Blue desktop?
We can.
Okay, so this is simply a YouTube video. I'm going to post the link in several places, including sending it out. So you just click run and it goes to the video. What I want to draw your attention to down here, though, is, and this isn't the job aids, this actual screenshot and what I'm talking about right now, you want to click show more, because once you watch this 22+ minute video, you'll want to click this link. This is how your folks are going to get credit. So once they click this link, you put in the day you took it, your company name, your last and first name, last 5 of your social. I believe we've put enough room in here to give 10 people credit if you were going to want to watch it in a group setting. And then you just go to the bottom and click it. And then Evergy is able to run a report to see which one of our contractors have taken this orientation piece through YouTube. And it's just that simple. And obviously, if you got a group setting of 20 or more, that administrator who's ever doing this can enter the 10 names, click submit, go back in, and enter 10 more if they need. And it's that easy. And I'm going to have this, we're going to put this out here on our public platform, the whole orientation process, information on both pieces. If you're an ISN contractor, you go here. If you're a subcontractor or contractor that's not an ISN, you go here. And as soon as that's published, I'll send information out on that link as well.
Very good, Carla. Simple instructions. I like that. So just so for our Evergy team on the line, we talked about this a little bit about a month ago when we met, but Carla will be providing the information on how you can pull reports from ISN or this YouTube process. So that say you're going into an outage and you're working with a contractor company and you want to be sure everybody has gone through that orientation before they step on site, you'll be able to pull those reports and match it to what you expect before they arrive on site. They arrive on site, give them their sticker, or they're good for that site, or they're good for a year with the online orientation and for the site specific orientation that you give them upon arrival. So that's a lot of material, and that's where we wanted to start. Again, folks won't have to go back through an orientation if they have already done that. I will say though, if they're going to a new location this year, they will need that site-specific orientation. So I can see we'll get a lot of activity within these processes ahead of an outage season. And, you know, we have a lot of that going on in the fall. So if we need to pull this group back together, do a refresher, walk through it, we're certainly open to do that. I will say we feel pretty fortunate. I don't know in the past that we've been able to pull this large group of contractor representatives together and talk through processes like this, and we'll continue to use this avenue when we have things to communicate. But this is your chance to ask questions and see what maybe you're thinking about that we haven't covered yet. Nothing? I can't believe there's nothing. Anybody from the Evergy end of things have a question or comment or concern?
Wow, Kelly, that must mean we did really, really well.
Or they're just absorbing and it was too much information. What about our supply chain representatives that are on the line? Any questions from you guys?
Kelly, no questions from me. This is Darren. I appreciate you inviting my group and the supply chain group on this. I think this will really streamline things going forward. So appreciate the time.
What about anybody from our safety team on the line? What about any of our plant representatives? Okay, one more time from the contractor group.
I'll go ahead and ask a couple more questions.
Good, thank you.
So we talked about the site-specific training in addition to the IS Stunt World training. Is that something that needs to be scheduled, or is it something that just is reoccurring every time we show up, or how do we go about getting the site-specific training for Evergy?
Yeah, Chase or Bo, I'll let you guys take that one, if you would.
So getting set up for site-specific should be scheduled through your plant contact.
Okay. And then we talked about some of the PPE requirements and just trying to be a little proactive here. Do you guys publish a list of your requirements for contractors to see?
Yeah, so those are, well, I'd say we don't, that I can think of, have just a succinct, like, bulleted list, but they're listed in our rules, which are available on the evergy.com site.
Okay.
But I would also say, like, talk specifically with your plant, whoever your plant representative and or plant safety representative is. Based on the job, there may be something that is a higher level of PPE just based on the work. So we just want to be sure that we're talking, we got broad plant rules, and we may have job specific PPE rules too that need to be discussed.
Sure.
Chris Dodds, anything you'd add to that?
No, that's perfect. Thank you.
I would just say, once you understand, read the rules, and if you have any further questions at the site specific, it'd be a good time to ask them.
Okay.
Yeah, this is Luis with Brand Safeway. I just want to make sure that some of the smaller sites, I know they don't always have contractors on, like Gordon Evans or Emporia Hutchinson. Those are going to have site-specific trainings as well.
Yeah, they will and should follow the same process. Good question. But letting them know you got folks coming on, they need a site-specific orientation. And down in the Wichita area, those small sites down there, we'll have Brent Cothran. We'll go through that with you, or your plant representative. And then in the Kansas City area, we'll have the same process.
Okay, thank you.
Good question.
I just have a question. This is Scott Kuhn, KBS, for clarification purposes, probably more than anything. This new training platform you guys are talking about here takes place of the old power safe generation training where we would sign people up and send them out to Highland Community College or Washburn Tech or someplace like that to go through the 4-hour training. This new format is taking place of that. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Yeah, and if you didn't get the word this year, I'll apologize. That we were trying to get the word out to everybody we could that they might hold off on renewing any Power Safe subscription if they were only using it just for us. So
Yeah, we should be good. I think timing is going to work out just fine. Greatly appreciate that.
perfect. Sure.
Anybody else? Okay, so next steps. I wish I would have known May 1st was a Saturday, but it's a Saturday. So our official, I guess, start is May 3rd. So for any new contractor companies or employees coming in May 3rd or later, this will be the process. For those that have already had some kind of annual orientation, don't have to go through it again. Recognize that we're all moving through this change together, and our partnership with you guys is key to our business. So we want to stay close and continue to work together. So after this call, Carla will provide the job aids and more information that we talked through, so you'll have it in writing, digest it, ask questions, and then we'll get rolling on May 3rd. So one last chance for questions, and then we'll let you about your day. Okay, well, Jake and the team, thank you very much for the information. Thank you, everybody, for taking 48 minutes of your time. When we go back to Chris Dodds's DE&I moment, we talked about inclusion of different people, and including you guys in our process and our changes is important to us. So appreciate the time, and we'll look forward to the launch on May 3rd. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.